All right, what's up, everybody? We got Brad here from Sunroom Roverland.
Hey guys.
How y'all doing today? We're hanging out. It's beautiful weather, and this has got me jonesing for springtime, for hiking and all that stuff. If we look around here, let me show you. Nice and sunny. Everything's starting to thaw out, and really excited for the good weather coming this spring. But let's back up here for a second and give you a full picture of what Brad's rig looks like. It is such a cool rig. And what is this here? Tell us what we got.
So we got a 1982 Toyota Sunrader. They come like this originally. I get that question a lot if I put this on the truck, and I didn't. They do normally come two-wheel drive, so it took me a bit, but I converted it to four-wheel drive and put a big motor in it, but we can go over all that fun stuff.
Cool. So I figured, like, while the weather's still nice and before we get into the questions, we could go around the rig and Brad can tell us what he did to upgrade the truck and make it really 4x4 worthy, because we hit a bunch of trails. It wasn't last year, but the year prior in Colorado, and no problem keeping up with my Tacoma, which I was really impressed with. And the flex that he has on his with his suspension is amazing, given the fact that he's got this camper on the back. So
house.
yeah. So do you want to start in the front here, and then we can go around? Okay, cool. I'm just going to keep it pointed on you and be over to the side here.
All right, so on these Toyotas, it really is pretty basic. If you've ever watched somebody take an IFS, which is independent front suspension Toyota truck, and convert it to a solid axle, they have kits for it, so you don't have to build all your own stuff. So that's pretty much what I did in the Frontier, is I used an off-the-shelf kit and had to weld everything up. So it's a 1985 front axle that's been put in here. The shocks are Fox shocks. The springs are from Alcan Springs, and I had them custom built for the weight of the vehicle for the best possible suspension. Doing a rig like this, one thing I tell people all the time, put your money in the suspension, because it's going to take less wear and tear on the rest of the vehicle when you're use it stupidly like I do.
Well, you just like to go hard, that's all.
I like to go hard. Yeah.
Cool.
And it's got locking hubs, and that's really nice. Like coming up here in this mud, I wasn't sure how it was going to be, so I locked the hubs in. I can leave it out of four-wheel drive, drive it, and then as soon as I get into some bad stuff from the inside, I can just pop it into four-wheel drive, and I don't have to get out and get muddy.
Nice. Very nice. One of the things that Brad put on the front of his truck here, which I need to do this in the front of my Tacoma, is this hammock.
If you haven't seen this is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is awesome.
So these come out, these arms, and then they just pop out like this on both sides, and then you attach your hammock.
That is so cool.
This is Adventure Hammock Systems, and I'm actually an affiliate of them, so if you look up any of my links and you'll see them there if you want to save a little bit of money if you're interested.
Really cool stuff. We were chilling with Truck House Life 2 years ago, and near
Wolf Creek area.
Yeah, we were in the Wolf Creek Pass area, and he had this out and was like hanging in the front. I'm like, man, my little camp chair sucks. I was like, I want to have that thing. That thing's so cool. So.
And of course, we got a winch on it.
How many pounds is that?
I had to use it once. It's 10,000 pound.
10,000, nice.
And it's plenty for this. Built the bumper. Just wanted something that would collapse in the event of a hard hit from a big animal. Take the brunt onto the bumper and not the rest of the truck.
That's good.
So,
and what sort of engine are you rocking underneath
so
here?
I put a 3.4 in it from a Toyota 4Runner, a 1996 Toyota 4Runner. It also had an automatic transmission. So I went with the automatic transmission. Hindsight, I wish I would have done the 5-speed, and I still want to do a 5-speed in this.
Okay, cool. So you're gonna make a conversion with that at some point?
Eventually.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then I see you got a light bar up here.
Yep. My light bars are pretty inexpensive. I got those straight off of Amazon, and they've worked so far so good. My main lights are these ones in the corners. I have 6 of these.
Yeah. Oh, the KC lights.
Those are KC lights. Yeah.
I hadn't noticed that.
2s. Those are my critter lights.
The critter lights?
Critter lights. So if I'm sleeping and there's something with 2 legs or 4 legs and it's outside my camper, one switch lights up the night.
We were camping one time near Salida, and it was foggy out, and you had those lights on, and it's the coolest looking feature. It's just amazing. So, okay, cool. What else have we got on here? Just keep on walking us
We
around.
got a lot of Arizona mud.
Yeah.
Thanks to
my
Brian's
place.
Road. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I did actually, speaking of mud, I put these extended flares on here. These are really cool. I get questions about these. These are available on Amazon.
Okay.
And they have all different fittings on how they fit your fenders here.
Oh, nice.
And all different lengths.
Oh,
I've got an Amazon link. You can kind of at least get to them and figure out which ones you need. But they're nice and sturdy, and they keep it off my windows for the most part. They'd have to really come out far to get all the rest of this.
Yeah, that's nice to have, because a lot of them, you know, like on mine, I got bushwhackers.
Yeah.
But they're really specific.
And they're very expensive.
Yeah, and like you can't do like I like this better because it's more flexible and can fit more stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And like I said, they make all kinds.
Okay.
I do have 4 cameras on the rig, 2 on the rear, or 1 on the rear, 1 on each side, and 1 in the front. And I have those on toggle switches.
Okay.
So that when I'm driving, I have no blind spots.
Oh, that's nice.
I can fill up the whole screen with 1 camera view instead of sharing it with 4 at once and going, which one is it?
Yeah, my eyes aren't good anymore. That'd be nice to do that.
And in here is my Dometic 75 quart fridge.
Nice, dual zone, man.
Dual zone, that is my passenger. I don't have anybody riding with me, so I use the most space I can where I can.
Yeah, and it's so nice that you have a pass through here, so if you get in an area that's really gnarly, you can kind of crawl in the back if you want.
Yep.
As opposed to getting out in this mud.
Yeah, haven't had to yet, because it's like you usually come somewhat prepared.
Yeah, well, it's nice to have the option just in case. Or if someone's outside of your camper and it's a threat.
Yeah, I've not had that issue yet. Thankfully, I'm far enough back in the woods that if anybody else is back there, they're usually pretty cool.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. On the rear, this is also a Toyota axle. These original axles are just a kind of a standard axle, and there is a possible safety issue of the wheel coming out from a bad bearing.
Okay.
So I did a full float axle conversion on the rear, and that was just more about safety.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want those wheels popping off.
Yeah, so basically something happens here, it's still encapsulated inside. I could literally drive out in four-wheel high.
Oh, okay.
If I had to.
Cool.
Yeah. And I've got a locker in the rear, and I've got a limited slip in the front.
Is this storage?
These are all storage. This one, I actually originally built it. I have my wood stove, which we'll take a look at inside here. I originally built this so I could just transfer my wood into here, but I actually stopped carrying wood in the rig. I just get wood where I'm at.
Yeah.
Not purchase in the woods.
You know, a reason for that is the wood can have insects in it, and then it can get inside of your rig and cause all sorts of problems.
The other thing is you're taking wood from one location to another location, and I've just heard really bad things. That could be possibly why we have a lot of the wood problems we do, infestations and stuff. So
yep, totally.
I'd rather just burn it where I find it.
That's a great idea. Yeah. That's the responsible
On this stuff, I actually wish I would have not done these and just fiberglassed them.
Really?
Yeah, like I did the front. I never access these.
Oh, okay.
Never. And all they are really is a place to lose heat.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because they really gets in there pretty easy.
And on the front you saw, but I also fiberglassed the whole front end.
Yeah.
Those used to be wraparound windows, and they're notorious for leaking. So I just learned myself to fiberglass and threw those in there.
Yeah, because you did a lot of this work yourself. Like,
I did all of it.
Yeah, so you really know what you're doing with this.
Saved a lot of money doing it that way. Was really fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah.
This is just my big storage unit back here. Just a little flip-up table. Keep my grill in there. I keep all my recovery accessories in here also, including my tracks up here that I just included this year for snow conditions.
Very useful.
Yep.
Got your trasharoo.
Got my got my trasharoo.
Hey, trasharoo, let's send him a new one. What do you say?
Pretty bad. Yeah. But it's still going. That's been on 3 rigs.
I love how you have the historic vehicle tag too.
Yeah,
that's
Old
really cool.
Arizona makes it easy to do that.
Yeah.
Other things. Oh, my L-Track. I get a lot of questions about this stuff. I have this both inside and outside. I opted not to put a commercial awning on here because I was really concerned with ripping it off while I'm traveling through areas. So I just put a tarp up there, and then I have a couple poles out here. And when I don't want to run the full tarp, I run a small one down here. I normally carry an e-bike with me.
Okay.
I don't have it with me right now, but I can keep this protected underneath here, and I usually have my wood and my chainsaw and all that kind of stuff down here.
Nice.
In the snow.
And I noticed in the back here, you got more of the cameras. And then you got a cell phone booster? Is that what that is?
That is that's a WeBoost cell phone booster. It somewhat works right now because I forgot to take it down and I drug it 2.5 miles down a trail. Yeah.
You know, things happen on the road.
Yep, they do.
So, well, cool.
Yeah.
And then you got more storage out here.
Yeah,
Looks
again,
like.
same thing. This is actually for my this is for my water.
Oh, okay.
So I have an outdoor shower if I need it.
Very nice. I didn't know you had that.
Yeah. I actually had a secondary pump in here at one time, and I had a misting system that went on my awning.
Dude, during the desert days, that'd be
Yep.
awesome. Oh man.
But I decided to pull it. It was having a hard time keeping up with the way the pressure was built. So
Okay.
I was going to have to modify the entire thing, or I just
Yeah.
I used it twice. It was fun, and yeah, that was
Yeah. Yep.
These little giant steps are amazing. If you're looking for a good steps, I really like these, and they're also great for small dogs. For like Lily, for her, short distance to be able to get up. Really safe when I go to expos and stuff for people to walk in and out. I'm not worried about them falling or slipping or breaking the step if they're coming inside to take a look at it.
Very nice.
And then I have extra fuel over here on the side. These always stay empty unless I know I'm going to be in an area. I only have a 17-gallon tank, so this just allows me extra fuel just in case.
And what would you say your average mileage is?
13 miles per gallon.
That's not bad.
Which isn't bad for this.
I've got 15 on my
house.
Tacoma.
Right.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very nice.
And it has 456 gears, so I did have to change the gears for the other issue. And I got those done at Nichols Auto Fab, by the way.
Oh, cool. What's up,
Our
Kevin?
good friend Kevin. Yeah, he
Yeah.
did those. I don't do those.
Yeah.
I'll do a lot of stuff. I ain't touching gears.
I like how you have a really nice lock on here too, an extra one, just more than the door.
Yes, that was a must-have. If you know anything about these Toyotas, I'm not giving away any secrets. You can put absolutely any key you want in there and open it.
Really? Yeah. Wow.
They're terrible. I can open somebody else's Toyota with that original key.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So for those of you who are looking to get an old vintage Toyota camper, make sure you get an extra lock on there.
And the other thing on this, I don't know if you noticed, but it's a key on both sides.
Oh, okay.
So even if you did break the window, you're not going to go and then get in.
Ah, yeah.
But it is also a safety feature. They do not recommend you do this because you lock yourself in and catch fire and burn yourself down or something. But
yeah,
I keep the key in there.
Yeah, that's
when
cool.
I'm sleeping.
Well, right on. Anything else you want to touch on out here, or do you want to head on inside?
Let's go inside.
Okay, you can go ahead, and I'll set this up, and then I'm going to check on Meadow real quick. We'll let Lily in too.
Okay.
So there's Lily going up. So Lily's been your travel partner now for, I mean, she's been in your life for what,
She's
10,
been in my
10
life
years?
since she was a pup.
Yeah? So
Yeah, she's 10 years old.
Yeah, nice.
So she is my little travel dog.
And in here, why don't we do this real quick? We'll do like a quick little pano and show, obviously you've got your cooking area.
Yep, got a cooking area, wood stove. And we can talk about some of the particulars here in a bit. And then the seating area back here, I designed this so this part of the couch underneath can slide anywhere it needs to, forward or backward. So it really changes how I can use this back space.
Cool.
Which is pretty nice. It's a typical Lagoon table mount, so you can move it wherever you want.
And was there anything in here when you got this?
No, it was completely gutted.
Okay.
It was a total fiberglass shell.
Okay. And how long did it take you to build out everything?
So it took me 2 to 2.5 years. 2 years is what my plan was. COVID hit, so I had an extra half a year. So I kind of extended it to 2.5 years.
Okay. But
Yeah,
and during that time, were you living in this?
I was not living in this. I was living in an apartment or rental, running my business and building this, knowing that this is what I was going to end up doing.
Okay. And since then, you're no longer
doing it for 3 years.
Okay, and you no longer do that business. You're out here full time, right?
I sold it. It sold the business, and that's actually what has allowed me to do this on a very limited budget. So. I don't travel a lot of places. I pretty much go into an area, excuse me, and I'll stay in that area. Like I spend a lot of time in the San Juans, Colorado, and just that whole kind of area there.
Yeah.
I built the truck so I could get into the woods for 2 weeks at a time. If there's a water source, I can go up to 3 weeks with my food supplies.
Very nice.
Yeah.
You know, one thing I want to say about this lifestyle is that it's scalable. And so therefore, you know, being on a limited budget, you can make it work. And you do need a little bit of savings, I think, just in case
Yes,
for things that come
absolutely.
up.
And I do have that.
Yeah, but you can get by on really a very small budget, much smaller than I think.
What you would think.
Yeah, much smaller than what you, and it's comfortable. You know, as long as you have
I'm on $1,000 a month.
$1,000 a month.
That's what I'm on.
Yeah.
And I always have extra money at the end of the month.
Nice.
My main purchase is food and fuel. Anything beyond that, I'm stretching it. Like if I need to upgrade my computer, or if I'm upgrading my camera equipment, I've got to think, you know,
We're
what
getting
that's gonna
Starlink
do.
because you're planning on doing that soon.
I'm getting Starlink. Those of you who follow me already know that I am not very great at consistency in my posts, but that's because I'm in the middle of the woods and I have no service. So we're changing that. We got a question there or something.
Okay.
We're changing that, and I'm going to getting Starlink so I can keep you guys more up to date and do more videos for you.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really a big. People don't realize how difficult it is to stay up with content, especially if you don't have connectivity like Starlink. And even when I was using Unlimitedville for the unlimited cellular service, what it is it's a data card from Central America that works on the North American networks, and it's unlimited. But even with that, I mean, you're still limited as far as your upload times. A lot of times when you're back in the back country, it's really slow, and it would take all day to upload just as the smallest video, and it makes it to where content's hard to do. And so with Starlink, it really opens it up, and then it opens up other areas you can go to and still be able to get online and answer questions and all that stuff. So what I'm going to do real quick is put this on the mount,
Okay.
and then I'm going to go check on Meadow,
All right.
and then we'll be right back. But if you why don't you tell people about your channel and also your different your other things like Instagram and all that stuff. I'll be right back.
Okay. So guys, I started the Instagram journey when I actually first started building it. So you can go back in my Instagram and see a lot of some of my build process, some of the things I did and why I did it. I built the inside of this very specifically to be able to flex because it is a fiberglass structure, and you can do it one of two ways. You can either build it so it's super strong, or you can build it so that you allow things to flex. And I don't know if you want to call it rock crawling, but I've gone up 15-inch obstacles, rocks, and this thing flexes all over the place, and not one of my joints has come loose in this. So it's working the way that I did that, and you can see some of that stuff in my Instagram. But I wasn't planning on doing YouTube. That was never even a thought of mine. I met Brian and Phil, and they encouraged me to get into YouTube and see how that works. And now, to be honest with you, my budget is going to keep me out there for another 2.5 years if I can continue to get out by on $1,000 a month. And anything beyond that, I am looking to YouTube and Instagram and trying to grow that so I can continue this journey. And we just got Brian step back in.
Hey, what's up, everybody? So
and it's also Sunroamer Overland. Everything I am is Sunroamer Overland. YouTube, Instagram.
Cool. And then just real quick, I want to show you all the excellent views back here that he has on. I mean, it's literally like 270-degree views.
Yeah, it's really nice.
So back up to like really killer places, and then, you can kind of really have a incredible view and take in some awesome sunsets and all that stuff.
It really is nice. And like I say, again, I've designed this so I can pull this all the way forward, and I can sit this way and work and edit.
Yeah.
And that's my view out there. Yeah, it's pretty nice.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the computer here and check out questions, and I'm going to feed him stuff. So let me get on here real quick, and we'll get this going, and then we will be set. So you were just at King of the Hammers, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
How was that?
That was a lot of fun. It was my first year, so I probably mobbed this thing a lot harder than I should have, but I just couldn't resist. I wanted to see how it did on the whoops, and I did probably a few too many whoops.
So what happened?
I bottomed it out a couple times, and I think I may have actually created a soft spot on my floor. So I need to look at the structure underneath and see what's going on. I also went up rock crawling, and you can check out Down to Mob. He'll have that one of these days. Phil, our friend, he got a little bit of the film of it. We went on a trail called the Ridge Trail that goes up and over, and it was a rock crawling trail, and I was with a bunch of guys. They did not know that I was behind them. They thought I was going to go the easier way, and I climbed up the hill behind them. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, you came up!" So we didn't get a whole lot filmed, but we got a little bit, and then I got stuck.
Was that the one where you had it where your suspension was really
buried
flexing?
in the sand.
Yeah, okay, that was cool.
I got buried in the sand. Had to be rescued.
Hey, you know, it's always an adventure out there.
It's fun to test your limits when you're with other people.
Yeah.
Because you've got the help if you need it.
So I've got a question for you to start out with the questions here, and I was wondering, is there anything about this that you would want to do differently, or any limitations that you didn't expect or anything, or has everything gone according to plan?
Yeah, pretty much just a drivetrain. I should have gone to 488 gears, which would have kept me in the power band that I need to be. Or I should have done a 5-speed, which would also put me in that power band. I have made changes along the way. I changed my stove to a different stove. One that can be taken outside also. And I had a huge sink, and I got rid of the sink completely because I just find I use way too much water when I use the sink. So now I just use a spray bottle. I've got, you know, the little sink over here, just one of those little pop-up ones. And that's all I simply use. So other than that, I would say no. Actually, yeah.
Okay. We've got a question from Geraldine here. It says, how big is your wood stove, and can you cook on it?
My wood stove is the Cubic Mini Grizzly, so it's the next step up from the Cub. I cannot cook on it well because the way that my structure is, I have kind of an L at the top on the fiberglass, so I had to bump out.
I see.
And because I had to bump out, I had to put this 45 in here, and I really limited what I could do up here. It will cook. This thing gets to 650 degrees on the top.
Wow.
Yeah, it cooks.
I bet it makes it pretty warm in here.
Yes, very much. Now, hindsight, if I would have done it differently, I would have added a 6-inch spacer, then run this, and then that up there.
Okay.
Then I could have used it to cook on.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, let me put that back up here.
And just to let you know, if you're not familiar with these heat very well, but they're very inefficient as far as how often you have to keep them stoked.
Yeah, it's just the firebox on them are
hour
small.
and a half. Yep.
Yeah, you know, when I would roll around with Baron and Elsa, they had the smaller version of this, and they were able to find, I guess there's a type of compressed wood that.
I have some.
Do you? Yeah, and so those can be a little bit longer, but
Yes.
still, Baron was like, man, if it was a really cold night, he's like, one of us would have to stay up all night and monitor the stove.
Yeah.
That makes for long evenings, because your wintertime, a lot of people look at the videos from the wintertime and say, oh man, that looks so peaceful, I want to go do that. They have no idea that, they don't have any idea how much work it takes to get it going. And so, you know, especially, you know, if you're out in anything below zero, you're just feeding the stove, you're monitoring your heats, you're trying to regulate stuff, and it's an all-night ordeal. So you don't sleep a whole lot.
And
so,
on a side note with that, I have a diesel heater. So what I'll do in that circumstance is I'll stay up till like about 10 o'clock at night. I'll stoke this thing with as much wood as I possibly can. My diesel heater is set up on a thermostat. So as soon as I go to bed, this thing will just kick on and kick off as it needs to all night long.
yeah, that's nice.
Yeah, and it's well insulated.
Yeah, and so your sleeping area, let's flip this around here. We can talk about this.
Yeah.
Your sleeping area, whoops, is right there.
Yep.
And how is that?
So it's an over the cab, and it's great. I love not having to make the bed down below here and just being able to go up there and crash. And it also gives me a little bit of storage, like for coats and stuff like that. And paper towels, toilet paper, all that kind of stuff just kind of goes up there.
Nice. It's kind of just a cubby hole that you can do stuff. That's awesome. All right. We had a question here. We've got a couple questions. Dead on Trail said, when are you LS swapping the beast?
As soon as you open your garage and you've got one sitting there. I considered an LS swap. The only reason I went with the 3.4 is because I picked up the donor for $450. That gave me all the engine harness and stuff I needed. It gave me the transmission, and it gave me a e-locker.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. We got a question from Sally Dunlap here. It says, how is diesel heat compared to wood heat?
Diesel heat is great. It's very comparable as far as how it's not a condensating type of heat, not like propane. And I like the wood. I like the diesel heater. I use that a lot more often than I use the wood stove. I'm only using the wood stove pretty much in the winter camping up in Colorado, and I really only use it during the day.
Yeah, it's kind of more of an ambiance thing and a novelty, I think.
They're not even that ambiance because these screens, they fill up with smoke so fast that you don't really get to enjoy the fire.
Yeah.
It's just kind of nice having it, I guess.
Yeah, well, it's a nice backup too. If you get low on
Yes.
diesel,
Oh,
then
yeah,
you know
definitely.
you can get biomass in there, and you're good to go.
That was also the big thing because I'm so far back. There is always a possibility something breaks. I end up back there for a lot longer than I planned on being, and that was the idea behind the wood stove. I can always go out and cut wood.
Oh, hang on a second here. We've got a little bit of a lag. It's just every once in a while the Starlink will lag.
Okay.
So hang on one second here.
Less swap.
Yeah. Okay. Now we're back. Let's see. It says how Sally was asking, how is the rig during extreme cold?
It's really good. I used an insulation that actually was from Home Depot, and it is a double-sided foil with a, I think it's a an R4 insulation factor, and now it actually comes even better. Mine was 5/8, I think, thick, and now they have a 1-inch thick, and it's really good insulation. It's also very easy to install it because of that foil. You can just use 77 spray and it'll attach to anything.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And then Vinny was asking where are we at. We're at my place. We're at my property.
Yeah.
So in northern Arizona. There's another one. Sally was asking about toilet in the middle of the night.
Okay. I have a composting toilet. I have a Nature's Head composting toilet. And yeah, I wouldn't go back.
No.
I use that thing all the time. One thing about composting toilets, if you don't know, they literally need about 3 to 3.5 months for them to actually compost. Otherwise, you're just dumping nasty stuff.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Let's see. What else have we got here? Let's see. Brad's rig is so sick. This is Rodeo Camper. Great hanging out with him at Schoolie Palooza. Super guy. Right. So Rodeo Camper Redo. That's this channel name here. Okay. Let's see here. Sally said Brian or would either you or Brian consider rock? See, I can't see that. Rock wool insulation. I
have used some, not rock wool. I've used, oh, God, think of the other name of it. There's one similar to it. Rock wool is I looked into it. It's very brittle. And I've also heard from people that have used it on ranches that the mice love to burrow in that stuff. And you don't want anything that's going to attract mice.
Yeah, totally.
So I would say no.
Cool. Right on.
And if I think of that other insulation, I'll say it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you something. I forgot what it was.
Well, one other thing, talking about how warm it is in this rig, is this is a fabric called Warm Window, and I have it on everything that's got a window. It's 5 layers thick. You can sew anything onto it you want, and it's very well insulated for your windows, especially even these old school single pane windows.
Okay, cool. All right, let's see what else I've got.
Havelock wool. That's it. Havelock wool is really good stuff. I used it in a lot of cavities on the back side of my rig.
And Sally, you were asking about the toilets, the composting toilets that incinerate. I've never used one of those.
That would be a big toilet.
Yeah, and I do know that like in order to do that, you have to have a lot of power. A lot of power to get that going because from what I understand, it gets it over 800 degrees.
Yeah, they're usually, the ones I've seen are massive. They're more for tiny homes.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen some out here. The thing about it though is you have to consider that a lot of areas, it's kind of questionable on whether you can use them or not because it does emit an odor. You know, like when you're burning solid waste, there's a tiny bit of odor that comes out. And so sometimes if there's a property owners association or something like that, they'll say, hey, you can't do that. You actually have to have legit septic because then there's no smell with it because they don't want that smell to carry over into other properties, which I totally understand. Sure. So it's something to think about. Sense. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere, if you're in Alaska in the middle of, like literally no one around, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So it's your call. So, all right, let's see here. Mike was asking, do you have a base camp to call home?
I do not. This is it. Well, I shouldn't say that. I have a friend who has property
in Arizona that allows me to stay on his property. I won't say indefinitely, but I'll spend about 2 or 3 months at his property and use it as a base to go out into areas of Arizona before I go back to Colorado.
Cool.
Yeah.
And see, let's see. Sun Goddess was asking if you.
I love that name.
Yeah. Well, this is actually my property, Sun Goddess. We're chilling here, and Brad was coming back from California. And he's on the way, and I said, hey, if you stop by and let's hang out for a couple of days. So that's what we're doing here.
Yeah.
So this is actually my place. It's 14 acres. I'm in Northwest Arizona. I really love it out here. It's very quiet, very peaceful.
Nice.
I've got some great views, and it's I'm fortunate. I got this property for $20,500. It was before COVID, but it's still not that expensive out here. And so the one thing about it is the economics of this area keeps it quaint, because there's nobody coming out here to get jobs because there's no jobs out here. It's literally in the middle of nowhere.
True.
So let's see. Julio was asking, where in Colorado do you go? You said the San Juans.
San Juans mostly. I pretty much try to stay in the San Juans until they start closing the gates. And then you kind of got to move down.
And the gates start closing roughly about when?
November, December.
Okay.
It depends on how high of elevation you are.
Yeah. And a lot of reason for that is because as vehicles and gear becomes more readily available to be able to withstand the cold temperatures, you do run into scenarios to where you could get locked in there, and the Forest Service doesn't have the manpower to come out and get you. And so it is a danger. People like me, unfortunately, promoted the winter camping lifestyle, so I feel guilty about that. But the reality is that you can get yourself in some gnarly situations. I actually burned my entire leg here on bacon grease my first winter out, and I had 3rd-degree burns down my leg, and I was snowed in with a 4-foot snowstorm. And so I called the doctor that I had in Buena Vista, and I said, what do I do? And he said, well, grab yourself a stick, and this is going to hurt. And I said, what's the stick for? He goes, you need to bite down on it. And I had to take my pocket knife and I had to scrape it off because my synthetic long underwear had melted into my skin. And he said, if you don't get that off there immediately, you're going to get an infection and then you're in trouble because it burns off your epidermal layer and you're down to the dermal. I did a video on that a while back, and I put a warning, and I said, okay, in 5 seconds, I'm going to show a picture of my leg. And I got somebody comments like, don't ever show that again. They're like, we were prepared, but that was gnarly. So, you can get yourself into trouble out there. And that's what they just do it as a precaution, But there's other areas in lower elevations where you can go winter camp, It's just you don't want to be really high up in the mountains, especially above the snow belt, because when you get above the snow belt, it's a completely different ballgame when it comes to
that stuff doesn't melt.
No.
So you get up there and you think, oh, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to camp. I was camping at over 11,000 feet, but there was no snow that year. So it was really great, and it had a little bit of snow. But a big snowstorm was supposed to come in. I was talking to a bunch of hunters, and they said it was on its way in. And I really struggled. Should I leave? Because at 11,000 feet and it snows, it doesn't melt. Oh, man. So you need to get out of there.
Yeah.
So you need to be precautious about what you're doing and where you're at.
Yeah, and I know it's all about the adventure and stuff like that, but if you got yourself into a situation like that, it can turn south real quick.
Yeah, real fast.
Yeah. So, all right, let's see. Oh, someone was asking if you can use charcoal in your.
I haven't tried that. I don't know. Like coal?
I guess.
Not charcoal, but coal. I thought about it. I don't know. I spent a few years on a ranch, and that's all we used to burn in Colorado was coal. And it's really efficient, really good. I might try that, but it is pricey too. I did kind of look into that, and it was a lot more expensive than I thought it would be. It's different when you're in an area and you can just go out and buy it versus having to order it and have it shipped.
Yeah. Let's see, someone else. I think someone was asking about, let's see. This Mike Jones was talking about how there was a guy who calculated the cost to be about $8 to run the diesel heater for a 24-hour period. Would you say that's correct?
I've never run mine that long. Again, mine's on a thermostat. So what he's referring to, and I do understand what he's talking about, most of the diesel heaters right now are designed so that they will run at a certain temperature, but they continue to run at that temperature. They'll kind of bring themselves down to a lower level, but continue to run. Again, mine being on a thermostat, it will turn on and turn off all night, and it is very efficient. I've got 3 gallons in the back, and again, I can be out in the woods for 2 weeks at a time in cold temperature.
Oh, nice.
As long as I'm using my wood stove.
Cool.
or only using it at night with a well-insulated rig.
Let's see. There was a. Oh, never mind that.
And with that, I'm going to do an update. I did a YouTube video on my the thermostat that I have, which is kind of no longer usable with the new diesel heaters that are available on eBay that everybody buys them from. But there's a new company called Burek that came out, and he has one. So if you're thinking about a diesel heater, go check his site first. Make sure it's compatible, the one that you're going to buy.
Okay.
And it's very efficient if you run it that way.
Okay, cool. My question was, I was going to ask you this, and I forgot. What would you say if you had to estimate the amount of money that you've invested to get this rig up to where it's at now?
Exactly, $20,000.
Really?
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Okay, so what did you buy this for initially?
I bought it for $2,800.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did you get that from?
5 years ago in California.
Man, did the guy not know what he had or
No,
something?
he knew exactly what he had. It was actually kind of funny. I went out to get it, sight unseen, never been in one before. Thought this is what I wanted. I got there, and because there was no structure to the fiberglass, I mean, it was literally hanging down.
Oh.
And I had to stand in here like that. And I thought, oh, I screwed up. I should not have bought this. But I thought, well, I already gave him my word, gave him the money, and we could not get the lights working because I was going to drive it home. And we couldn't get them working. So I finally just said, we tried for 3 days. And I finally said, listen, not going to work. Sell it. He said he had all kinds of people that wanted it, which I could understand. I said, go ahead and resell it. Send me the money. I got to get home because I got to get back to work. And people were offering him $1,500.
Wow.
They didn't want it. So I finally said, hey, you know what? I'll take it. I'm not losing that much money. And so we had it shipped.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And he split that with me. So that was, yeah.
That's solid.
He did a solid. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, I didn't realize the roof and everything.
Oh, it was terrible. I reinforced this with aluminum.
Oh, really?
I ran aluminum struts across this, bowed aluminum struts to make sure that I had snow load.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot to this thing.
Yeah.
Because it's like a little cabin in here now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like with the. I want to show you all the roof here, just to show you just what he did with the wood paneling on the roof and
It's
everything.
just the cedar.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1/4-inch cedar.
It looks fantastic. And then over here, he's got the Fantastic, or what is it? Is that the Fantastic fan or Dometic fan or whatever?
Those are the Fantastic fans. I have 2 of those. And by the way, you don't need 2.
Yeah.
Just put one in an appropriate place that you're going to be using it. Everybody talks about, oh, you can run one in and run one out, and you'll get this incredible flow. Honestly, just turn one on and open a window.
Yeah, that's what I do in my camper. Yep,
You
totally.
get such a nice flow from that, and they're not cheap. Oh, and one thing else, the reason I was able to do this for $20,000, because I took 2.5 years to build it, I was able to wait until all the sales to pick all this components up. I bought open boxes on all of my Victron Energy stuff. I bought those on eBay liquidation. So I just saved tons of money by just accumulating stuff over that time until I needed it for the build.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that a little bit because if you look online and you see all these fantastic rigs, you think, wow, that's great. But then you look at the price tag and they're $150,000. And so that's not attainable for most of us, especially nowadays. The dollar doesn't go as far as it used to, and we're not making as much as we used to. And so, like in my situation, I had a $300 slide out extension in my Tacoma, and the topper was only $1,200. And so I was out there for $1,700 in my truck, living 7 years. And you can do it if you just, number one, just kind of think outside the box a little bit. You don't need a Sprinter van, although they're awesome, but you don't need that.
Need this.
Yeah. And so, like, if you just have a car that works, you can figure out a way to, go out and camp in it and make it happen. And so, but what I would recommend though is like what you did. Take your time, do your research. Don't just jump at the first thing, and you can definitely do it on a budget, and you can make it awesome. I mean, this is one of the most unique rigs I think on the road. And it was funny because when we were rolling around with Truck House Life, I was non-existent because everybody was going to your rigs and Truck House Life, and they're like, oh, that guy in the Tacoma, I've seen those around a bunch, and I'm thinking, oh man, but it was funny how like we'd stop at a gas station and all of a sudden it was like zombies, everybody just walking towards y'all. I mean, they just come from all directions, and especially Tim.
That's cool, I love it.
Yeah, and so it was neat to see that because I didn't get that on the road as much because once I pack up my truck, it just looks like a truck.
It looks like a truck.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And the reason why I did that was because I didn't want people to think I was on the road. So
makes sense.
Yeah. Do you run into any issues with like Forest Service or BLM? Do they look at you and go, "Oh, you're out here full time"? Or...
No, I've actually met some really cool people out there. I got locked behind a gate.
Oh yeah, I remember you told me
Yeah,
that. You
in
called me and
Colorado.
told me that. You said, "Hey, by
Yeah.
the way."
I was back behind an area, and there was a huge snowstorm, and this area did not used to lock their gates, so this was something new. So I was way back there, and because it was a snowstorm, when they came through to clear the area, they didn't see me. I was all camouflaged.
Ah.
I probably had a foot of snow over my entire rig.
Uh-huh.
So they passed me by, and while I was cutting wood, apparently there was a rancher that lived nearby, and his dogs were barking when I was cutting wood. So he notified the Forest Service that, hey, I think somebody's still back there. So they came back there, and it was a guy and a gal, and they were so cool that they wanted to check out the rig.
Yeah, of course.
So we came in, we checked out the rig, we talked, and then told me what was going on. And they were really cool about it because I had a lot of stuff out. I had my awning out and everything else. And I said, hey, if I need to, I'll leave right now. You know, it's just going to take me a little bit. I said, but if not, I'm going to be out of here in 2 days anyway because I had to go in for supplies. And so they soft locked the gate for me.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, we had a question here. Mark Twain was asking, hey, Brad, when you built your setup, did you line the plywood with Bumble, Buff and Pope, and Scoop as that would be most desired?
Huh?
I don't know what that is. If you want to read it, I'm going to go check on Meadow real quick.
Hi, Brad. When you built your setup, did you line the plywood with Buff and Poop and Scoop as that would be most desired?
I don't know what that is. Are you talking about the bubble wrap type stuff? Like it has air in it and it's foil? If that's what you're referring to, that is not an insulator. That is a reflector. I did buku research on that, and I see a lot of people say that that's such a great insulator. It is not. All it does is it uses the little bit of air that is in between maybe 3/16 or a 1/4 inch. And I hope that's what you're referring to. That stuff is not an insulator. It is a reflector, and it should be used as a reflector, not an insulator. I've actually tested this stuff on my back window because I was using it for a little while. It was the same temperature on the outside of the glass as it was on the inside of the foil because it just allowed the whatever temperature, hot or cold, or I'm sorry, cold, to come through. So it didn't work.
Got ya.
Okay. A Glock 20. Well, I don't have a Glock, but let's just say I have something.
These guys with the Tesla who sleeps in a tent and then he charges it with 40 watt panels could almost pay for the car payment. Yeah, that is true. Sue got a Glock, but I have to know the laws very well.
Yeah, I actually just went to California again, King of the Hammers, and I left my protection at my friend's place because I did not want to deal with the issues with being in California and having self-defense items.
Keep on trucking.
Oh yeah, cheaper RV link. Oh, so this was really cool. One of the things I just got done doing before I came here is Bob Wells, Cheap RV Living, just did a walkthrough and an interview with me. So look forward to that. That should be coming out on their channel at some point, and that was a lot of fun. So.
Alrighty, I'm back here.
What do you suggest as additional
Safety for female solo.
Dog.
A good dog. Yeah, if you're gonna choose a dog, choose a good protective dog. Most people, I think, are not gonna approach you if you have a dog, and if they do, then just get the heck out of there because they're crazy.
Yep. You know, my friend Nat Moran, who's on the road full time, she's been on the road for, gosh, I can't remember how many years, but she's got a big German Shepherd and then another Shepherd mix, and she's like, I've never had an issue with any guys coming in my camp because as soon as they see my big dogs, they just keep trucking.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the other thing too. If you're on your way out and somebody tries to block you in, if it's your life or your rig, use a battering ram.
Yep.
Just hit them in the right location so you can keep going.
Yeah, that's what's nice about having those big bumpers, you know, because you can hit them. And like my bumper that I have is elk rated, so I can hit it at 55 miles an hour and it won't total my truck.
Right.
That's a big animal to hit, so I can definitely move vehicles.
Yep.
And you put it in 4-wheel drive and just have at it.
Yeah.
So, All right, let's see. Oh, you talked about Bob Wells. You were,
Yeah.
that was cool,
somebody
man.
had brought it up, so.
Yeah, it was funny.
I'm
I
glad
guess.
they did. I'm glad you did that.
Did you tell them how they were like, you should go? They were like, you should go visit
no,
Brian.
they didn't. It was so funny. So while we were having the interview, we were talking about doing collaborations and how that would help my channel, and then they were talking. Oh, you should see our friend Brian. I forgot his channel name, and I go, "Oh, Off Grid Backcountry Adventures." I said, "Yeah, I'm on his way to his house right now."
Yeah. Because
that was pretty cool.
We filmed that video. I think it was 5 months ago. So like
Okay.
Bob told me, he goes, I have enough videos that if I were to stop doing right now, I have enough in the bank to post for a year.
I'll bet.
Which I'm like, wow, because he's crushing it.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes all over the place and has that.
And
so.
that was one of the places actually that I first went when I was trying to learn about van life. Because when you first start thinking about this journey, the first words that come up, everybody knows, is van life. What is van life all about? And there's so much good information in there. And Bob Wells has a really great resource channel. Speaking of resources, I do want to mention both of our friend, Baron Link, Normal to Nomad. If you guys like reading, pick up his book. It's an excellent book. Since 2016, I think it was, they lived out of a 13-foot scamp. And in the winter, in the summer, really great couple. They're doing really great things today too. But yeah, check out their book. They're really great people.
Okay, I just put the link for Brad's channel up there. It's Sun Roamer Overland, because people were asking, hey, what's
cool.
what's the channel and stuff. And so let's see what else here. Hey, Quinn was asking, what are the county codes in northern Arizona? They're pretty relaxed. You know, it depends on where you're at.
Depends on where you're at.
Yeah, if you're in Coconino County, it's a little bit more restricted because there's a lot more people. It's Flagstaff. The properties are a lot more expensive. It's just more densely populated. Where I'm at is Yavapai County, not nearly as much in my area. Mojave County, same way, which is basically about an hour from the California border to the California border is Mojave County. I don't know that much about the eastern side of the state, except for that, like,
the one on the far past Phoenix, where they do all the earth homes.
Yeah. And then on the
Is
northern
really
side,
popular.
kind of a little bit to the west of Alpine is St. John's. And, and north of there, that's where like Frugal Off-Grid lives and a bunch of other off-gridders. They're about 600 feet higher in elevation though, so there's a lot of snow out there, so you got to be prepared for that. But the codes out there are like out here. It's you know, you can do the barrel septic. If you're in rural areas, you can get started with barrel septic and get your certificate of occupancy, and then get an address assigned to your parcel, stuff like that. Gotcha. So you can get started on a budget and then upgrade as you go. You know, you don't have to install.
Just make sure you know eventually you're going to have to put that stuff in.
Yeah, because like you know, you can only use the barrel septic for so long. It fills up, and then you need to move on. But it's a nice stopgap until you have enough infrastructure in place to like get your perk test and do those things to get your septic in. Because like out here, people say, oh, you know, you don't want to be in an area with like a property owners association or HOA, but I kind of disagree with that. And the reason why is because out in my area, at least, our property owners association, the only thing that we do is we have that to take care of our roads because we're along 4x4 trails that are off the county maintenance road schedule. So it's nice to have that road maintenance so that I don't have to worry about extremely gnarly roads. And I also get a community well with it, which is cool. And then the two codes that we have are make sure your septic is dialed in, because when the monsoons hit, you don't want to have that flowing into another person's property. It can cause tons of health issues. And if you're installing a traditional solar setup, then you want to make sure that it's not going to cause a fire, because if a fire happens out here, then
bad news.
You know, you're
Bad
on your
news
own.
fast.
Yeah, and you'll lose everything.
Yeah.
And so I do think that it's good for that. But other than that, that's the property owners association is like, hey, those are the only two things we care about.
I would say do the research on your properties association, because some of them are going to be pains in the butt.
Yep.
They're not going to be as lenient as the one that he got. So
Yep.
just because they have one and they're in a rural area, don't assume that they're lax.
And you
Definitely
know,
talk to them.
yeah, and I lucked out. I didn't really realize how relaxed it was out here. But when I took ownership of the property, the property owners association president came to my property with he and his wife, super cool people. They're like, hey, we handle all sort of disagreements internally. What you're doing on your land is your business. What I do on mine is my business. Just make sure your septic and your solar is okay so that we don't have waste running around the property or around the neighborhood, and that you don't cause a fire, a forest fire.
Makes
And I'm
sense.
like, that's reasonable. But everything else, they don't care what you do. And then they've come over since because I've invited them, and they're like, man, you're doing awesome stuff around here. And it's all good vibes, you know. But you can get it to where, you know, there are some property associations like one that I know of in the area where there's this gal on it, and she wants to be in everybody's business, and it's a problem, you know. And so what I would recommend is that if you're looking for property, maybe even ask to reach out to some of the people that live here if they're willing to talk, and just say, hey, how are things?
Yep.
You know, what's the vibe? You know, and just kind of get it from there, because you don't want to move into an area where you got somebody who's thinking they're going to control what you do.
Right.
You know, that's not why we're out here.
And the problem is they can.
Yep.
That's the problem. They actually have the authority to do that. So really do your research. I used to be a real estate appraiser, and I've met people that have moved out of an area just because of the HOA.
Wow.
Yeah, they've taken a loss on their property just to get out.
Well,
because of the
you know,
struggles.
where I was at in Colorado, people were doing the same because they were so frustrated with the good old boys club with the POA. You know, Deacon MMA was saying that Apache County is the least restricted in Arizona, so that's good to know. Okay, cool. All right, let's see here. Julio, you're asking, when did I take ownership of my property? It was so unfortunately the guy who sold it passed away 3 days prior to us closing, and he didn't have any family. And so I had to go through probate court, which took 10 months for the county to designate someone to just approve it, although I had already transferred the money because it was on a Friday, and I was supposed to close on a Monday, and he died Saturday morning.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, you have my money.
Yeah.
It's sitting in an escrow account. I'm not going to cancel the deal because I'm since he passed and there was no family, I was the one who could either cancel it or keep it. I'm like, I'm keeping it. And oh, hey, Timmy's here, Truckhouse Life. What's up, dog? Hey, once again, if y'all aren't following Truckhouse Life, you got to, because his channel's awesome.
No doubt.
But Timmy says, yep, those HOAs can be outrageous, and it's true too. And on top of it too, they can find the heck out of you. They can just they
They
try
can put a lien on your property.
Yeah,
if you don't pay the fines.
It's ridiculous what can happen. So you want to make sure that you're in an area where, you know, they're not going to be doing that to you. Yeah. What's nice here is there was a parcel in the back part of where I'm at. There's 120 parcels in my little community. Most of them are 40 acres, if not larger. There was one that was 80 acres that was really, really cool, but it was a developer from Prescott.
Okay.
And so what he wanted to do is, you can subdivide down to 10 acres in my area. Well, he was going to subdivide up to 8 parcels and get all of his millionaire buddies to build badass houses out here. And he said, I'll pay for all the roads to be paved. And we said, no. We don't want that.
Right.
And he goes, well, we need to improve the roads for me and my friends. And we said, we're keeping them rugged. You're not going to come out here and make this a city. So, you know, you've got to watch out for that. And I was really glad that the HOA stuck to their guns, because the guy sold his property and left. Yeah. And I was like, good. I don't want to bring the city out here. And you don't want to have it to where, you know, I would also do research and say, hey, it's out in the middle of nowhere. Are any of these roads that are accessed planning to get paved? Because once they're paved, you get so many more people coming through. Yep. You know, and so it's just something to think about. Like, do your research on it. Don't just jump at the first thing. Also, make sure if you're in Arizona or other areas in the Southwest, make sure you have access to water. That's the biggest thing. And I'm lucky in this area. We're sitting on top of a very big aquifer that no one else can tap into because they're too far away. Like, the cities can't drill down and over into it. They have tried to buy property in the area. Prescott Valley's tried to buy property in this area to build a pump house to transfer the water down there, and we sued them.
Nice.
And they said, you're not allowed to do that here, because they did buy a property and said, we sued them, and then they got out.
Wow.
So, you know,
Prescott Valley's got one of the biggest aquifers around, so I'm really surprised that they needed extra water.
They want a bunch of future growth.
Yeah.
They want massive growth in the future. It's like, because that whole valley, I mean, you think about it, it's huge.
Oh, Prescott Valley, not. Oh, wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I was thinking Paulden.
Oh, no, Prescott Valley, yeah. Because Paulden's still...
Paulden's huge.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
I mean, as far as its water.
Mm-hmm. And it tests out as some of the best water quality in the entire country.
And but it floods. Oh my gosh, it floods.
Yeah, because those aquifers are full, so as soon as there's water, it can't go anywhere. Boom.
Comes right up.
Yeah.
Been stuck there before.
Yeah, and I'm lucky in my area. You know, the Property Owners Association, they have a community well. And hey, what's up, Darren? That's my neighbor right there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
hey, man. Come by and take a look at the rig if you want.
Yeah, once the roads get better, come on, swing on by. Well, you know, maybe come by this afternoon or tomorrow, Darren. We'll be around. The Property Owners Association here drilled a well. The wells out here are very expensive. I mean, 1,000 feet deep, you're looking at $50,000 for a well. Ooh. And luckily, if you do drill out here, you're going to hit because of how, you know, yeah, it's crazy. And then the pump and everything else, you know. But so I pay $92 a year for my road maintenance and then for the well access. And then I have up to 4,000 gallons a month of water that I can use for my property. And they base it on the size of your property. If it's a bigger property, you get more gallons allotted. And they do that for a lot of people out here have either agriculture or animals or both on their property. That's one thing I want to do going forward is try to be food independent. So I'm going to start doing more water usage, but it's not bad because in the summertime you get the monsoons, and if it's a good monsoon, I mean you can harvest
your
10
property, right?
15,000 gallons of water during monsoon season and you're fine. So that's something to think about. So yeah, Truckhouse was saying, due diligence is key. Had so many friends get screwed over not looking into access, etc. That's true. You know, like another thing too is I've seen a lot of parcels for sale in Colorado, and people go, "Man, that parcel's affordable." Yeah, there's no roads to it, and you're blocked off by private property on all the sides, and you're not going to be able to get access to it. So it's like, you know, you can basically airdrop into it.
Big expense.
Yeah, and
to get in.
Yeah, and if you want to try to get easements and all that stuff and get a road
Make
cut
sure
through,
there's easements already there in place.
Yep, all that stuff. Also, you know, another thing to consider, which a lot of people don't think about, is can I get UPS or FedEx to deliver out there? You know, or do I have to have it dropped at the post office and go in town to get it? So that's something to think about. Luckily here we do have UPS. Our UPS driver is awesome. He basically just sends his truck everywhere. You know, he goes about 40 miles an hour. He's like, I don't care if it's bumpy or whatever. He goes like, they take care of the maintenance.
You have to, man. The roads up here are no joke.
Yeah.
Coming up here in the mud.
Yep. So Backroads Nomad, what's up, man? Thanks for tuning in. So let's see. So Rob was asking, hey guys, I don't know if this has been asked already, but how are you guys live streaming Starlink? Thanks, great stream. Yeah, we're doing Starlink out here. And that's really key. I think that's helped to open up a lot of these areas to people coming out more often because luckily on this parcel I do have cell service, but most of the parcels around here do not have cell service, especially the ones up on the ridge that are back up on there a little bit. None of them have service, and there have been people up there that have been living there for, you know, a decade or two, but they're like, yeah, but, you know, before we had Starlink, we're like, we just kind of hang out, you know, and never had any connectivity, and it was cool. So if you're comfortable with that, it's fine. But if you need to work and things like that, you need to take that into consideration. You know, the people that I know up there that have been living there for a long time, they've been retired, so they didn't need to worry about work. So they're like, oh, it was awesome. We'd go into town once every 2 weeks and check messages, and the rest of the time we're just up there chilling in nature.
And I just met a couple from Schoolypalooza. We're down in Ehrenberg, and their bus is completely broken down. They cracked a rear spring. Actually, 2 of the leaves were broken, and their entire frame is compromised.
Oh, man.
And it's a 40-foot school bus that they live in. But fortunately, they have Starlink, and they're working while they're trying to figure out what to do.
Yep. That's funny. Julio says work is a 4-letter word. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So let's see here. Sally's asking, Brad, how much solar do you have now and how long does it last you?
I have 365 watt solar panel and 200 amp hours of lithium batteries.
Nice.
I don't have any electric cooking appliances, so I have plenty for... I've been in a garage before, a buddy's garage, where I was in there for 4 days and I completely ran out of power. Okay. But I did not have a DC to DC converter, so I now have that as a backup.
Okay.
So I can always start my motor and at least put some into it.
Yep. Okay, cool. Somebody was asking here, J-Dog, have you ever thought about getting a horse? Seems like a good idea for an off-grid homestead. I've not thought about that, but the reason why is because up to this point, I still wanted to have the availability to go out and do truck camping trips. But eventually I'll get to the point to where I stay here full time, you know, and I think too with, you know, how unsettling the country has been and society has been lately, it does kind of make me think more about staying put as opposed to going out on the road. But I still love truck camping. So I'll eventually get to a point to where that will not be as big of a component in my life, and then I'll add more animals out here. So... see,
horses are great. When I was on a ranch, we had 8 horses. That was in Bayfield, Colorado. And I used to take the horses out, just take a bedroll and just go out and explore the mountains all the time. It's amazing. Yeah.
So let's see here. Backroads Nomad. Or no, I'm sorry. Sandy was saying that most of the good land is not advertised on the internet. And I'll say that's true in some cases. Out here, they actually do put them on the internet because no one's driving around.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've noticed about northern Arizona is that, you know, you get on I-40 and it's nonstop. People just zoom in, but no one gets off the freeway and does the side roads. And I think a reason for that is a lot of the side roads are pretty rugged. and it'll just shake your car to pieces if you don't have like a good suspension or the availability to like air down your tires, which is a huge lifesaver when it comes to not rattling apart your vehicle. And that's what keeps this area quaint, because you know, you drive in 10, 20 miles, but if you have to go 5 miles an hour the whole way, you're not going to, you're just going to be like, screw this.
Right away, you're going to turn around and say, I don't want property out here anyway.
Yeah.
I have to drive this every day. Or, you know, when I need to go into town.
Yep. And I have heard from locals around here, they're like, hey, make sure you have a good 4x4 that you can air down your tires, because number one, you'll need the 4x4 when there's snow or rain because the mud is crazy. But also the airing down makes it to where you don't have to replace your, you know, your drivetrain and like your bushings and all the stuff that you have to do on your suspension, because you literally just shake it apart. So that's why I like this area, and that's why I chose to settle here as opposed to like Colorado or other places that have much easier access. The easy access makes it to where people come around. When there's not easy access, I mean, we've been out here all day and we heard one UTV drive by, and it's my neighbor who lives across the public land, and that's it, you know? And so it's really nice when it comes to the quaintness, and also too, the prices are lower, you know? I mean, if this was something to where it was paved coming in here, these prices would be 3 times of what they are. But since it's difficult to get out here, and it's also, you know, it's not easy to source materials from town because there's only 400 people that live in the nearest town. You know, you take all those things into consideration, and that's where I think that, like, at least for me, this is my ideal place, you know? So, all right, let's see what else have we got here. Let's see here. Due diligence. Yeah, Backroads Nomad, definitely. We've been looking at a lot of 20 to 40 acre parcels. They look much different in person as they do in the ads. And that's totally true, because, you know, a lot of times in these rural areas, you'll get realtors that live in the next biggest city over. Well, the next biggest city to here is Prescott, and it's an hour and a half drive away. They don't come out here. And, you know, what I've noticed is the pictures they put up there are really bad. And then people come out here and go, this place is gorgeous.
Well, sometimes they'll actually, I've seen, because I've looked at property. I can't afford property anymore, but when I was looking at property, it would say Colorado, 5 acres near such and such. If they don't show the property, they show the such and such.
Yeah.
They show the national park that's nearby, this incredible, beautiful mountain and all, and the river and all this stuff. And then when you go look at it and you look on a map, it's like, that stuff is an hour and a half away.
Yeah, and it has no resources.
Nothing to do with that flat property that they're trying to sell.
I've noticed that too. Is that there was a place where I was looking near southern Colorado, and it was this 40-acre parcel. It was for $100,000. I'm thinking, what?
Right.
Like, that's amazing. Then they have all these pictures that look like it's incredible forest, and it is. But then they have the coordinates on the bottom, and you look at it, and it's barren land. There's nothing on it. There's not one tree, and you have no resources whatsoever. And so you have to take that into consideration if you're going to be out here and you want to be somewhat self-sufficient, or if you want to have natural materials to build stuff on your property. You need to have trees. You need to have a variety of rocks. You want to have variety in terrain as well. And what I like about here is that, like, my property has a lower meadow but then an upper ridge, so I'm on the upper ridge to where I can see everywhere around me, and it's just gorgeous.
Even his videos don't do his property justice. When I came up here, I could not believe how close the ridge lines were and everything. It just does not look like that in the pictures. It's a beautiful piece of property.
Yeah,
and he's done so much with it.
Nah, thanks, brother.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it out here.
You've done is pretty impressive.
Well, and you're right. You know, like the ridge behind me here, it looks like in the videos that it's kind of far away. It's right here. Yeah. You know, you're like, oh my gosh. And
it's cool.
I've had other people that come here too, and they go, wow, I didn't realize you were this close next to the ridge. This is amazing. Yeah. So
I was expecting a lot flatter piece of property.
Yeah. And let's see here.
Knowing this area.
We got a little bit of a lag here for a second. All right, now it's come back. All right, we're good. All right, it says, let's see here. What else have we got here? Yeah, Noreen, I agree with you. He says you definitely want to walk the land. You know, another thing too is that, so when you're looking out here, if anybody's interested in Northern Arizona and you want to be out in the country a little bit, you know, ask to see if there's a community well. Say, I want to go see the community well. And the reason for that is some of the community wells require you to bring your own generator, and some of them require a 5,000 watt generator, which that's expensive and super super heavy. And so you got to load that onto your trailer, which has your water.
Yeah, you don't always have it on there the whole time.
Yeah, and so somebody could steal it, you know. And so that's a big expense that you have on top of it. It's not just like my well is a push button well, which is amazing.
And that's another thing, because we did have issues in some of these more rural areas for a while, where people were putting kind of a base, but then just leaving everything, and they were getting broken into.
Yep, 100%.
So that's definitely something to consider, if how long you're going to be there, what you're going to have at the property, because there's definitely the possibility of you losing it all.
Yeah, that's where it makes sense when you get a parcel like this, or
Have good neighbors.
yeah, have good neighbors. Luckily I do. My buddy Darren, right down the road here, who I've had in the videos a bunch. He's like, hey, if you need anything when you're gone, let me know, because he's here full time. And so like when I'm in Colorado, but hey, would you mind rolling by there and just yeah, everything's cool, you know. But another thing too is, you know, when you buy a property, make sure you got a little bit of extra funds to have something you can store your stuff in, like a shipping container that you can lock up. And the shipping containers, what you want to do is when you have those, you want to add an additional area. There's like a way that where you put the lock on there to where you can put a piece of metal over it, and then it's really hard to access. Somebody can't come in with big pliers or big bolt cutters and get it. So there's additional things you need to do to make sure you can secure your stuff. But if you have that, you pull your quad in there, you put your batteries in there, whatever.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Out of sight, out of mind. It's rodent proof, it's weather proof, all that stuff, and you don't have to worry about it. So. And then Noreen, yeah, meeting your neighbors is so important, and I agree. You know, you don't want to be next to like meth heads or people that party all the time, you know, or something like that. If you want to be out in nature to where it's chill, you know, what I would recommend is if you're looking at a parcel and it's the middle of the day, come back after 5 p.m. and see if the neighbors are making noise. See if there's dogs that are barking nonstop, stuff like that, because it can really put a damper on your living experience, you know. So
do that any place you're thinking about moving to. Go at different times of the day, and you'll see, different things going on.
Definitely. Let's see here. What else have we got here? Let's see. What's a push button well, Noreen? Oh, it's basically, so what we have is our well. We had a problem a while back. It was before I came here, but there were people that were coming out here to steal the generator that we have. We have the 12,000 watt generator for our, well, I know, dude, you push the button and literally that tote fills up in a minute. Wow. It's like a fire hose. I didn't know it the first time and I'm holding it just casually. And that hose went flying. I was like, oh, luckily it didn't hit me in the face. I would have knocked my teeth out. But so what it is I've got a shipping container. I actually have a video about this too on my channel that I posted this past summer, but it shows how I operate the well. And what it is everything is now contained in a 40-foot shipping container. The generator's in there. We've got a water reservoir that fills up, you know, with the pump that when it holds it and it pulls out of there. And then everything is contained in there. It's also heated in the wintertime, so that way it doesn't freeze. So we can get water no matter if it's negative 20 out. You can pull up and get water immediately. And then all it has is a connector that comes out, which you connect your hose to, that goes to your IBC tote or whatever it is that you use to haul your water. And then you hook that up, and then it has a code and everybody has the same code. You don't get tracked or anything, but it's a code for the lock on the little push button. And you open it up and you push this green button and the generator starts up and then the water goes. It's very simple. You don't have to, I mean, I'm an idiot and I can operate it no problem. So it's all good. So let's see. See, J-Dog, hard to fund a drug habit in the middle of nowhere. Well, I don't know. Out here, there's an area out here where there's a lot of meth heads. And I tell people that that certain area that you should not go over there because it's all night long. People are up. There's always problems with crime and things like that. So do your research. Definitely look online. See if there's any sort of like social media groups that you could possibly join that are in those areas, because you'll start to get the story, the real story. Because unfortunately, I don't know how those people find the money, but they do. And you go into town, you know which ones they are.
They find it. They steal.
Well, they steal. Stuff. Yeah, they steal your stuff. Yeah. So it's a big problem, you know. And unfortunately, areas that are financially difficult and maybe not as much financial opportunities will have that. It's just part of this, just par for the course. So it's just it's something to think about. And the further out you get, it seems to be the more problems there are, because the further out you get, there's less restrictions on the land, so people can cut corners and they can go and get, an acre of land for nothing because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's not a desirable place, but they can be out there and kind of be under the radar. Yeah. And so you got to be careful with that, All right, let's see here. Sun Goddess, that's sad to have meth heads nearby. Well, mine are like 50 miles away, so they're not coming out here, which is nice. But they're still,
like you said, he's got good neighbors. So.
Yeah, my neighbors out here are solid. They're all like I am. Like, we love nature. We love 4x4 trucks. We all have remote control trucks too, like the RC trucks. And so we go on my back of the rock garden area here and do RC rock crawling. And we all love the kind of the the quaint areas out here. There's a lot of canyon areas that not a lot of people know about. And, you know, there's Indian ruins all over the place, petroglyphs, which is right up my alley. I love that stuff. And so I feel really fortunate to be out of here, or to be out here. Yeah. See, Nextdoor is good for community gossip. Yeah, Nextdoor is good. Just get online. You can probably find, you know, information on the area where you're looking at, and you're good to go. So, all right, let's see here. Let's see, what else have we got? Property we're looking at, 20 acres, top of mountain, closed access, gated road. Oh, okay. Sounds good, back rows nomad. Yeah, you know, if you can get behind gates too, because there's areas, especially areas like in Colorado that I know of, to where there's community gates because they're along Forest Service roads, so there is access in there, but the community gates will be such that they're locked, and then everything back in there is hard to access because the forest is so thick, and so you kind of get those natural barriers, which is nice. Yeah. Another thing out here, the natural barriers during the wintertime, a lot of people say, oh, in the wintertime, aren't you worried about people coming out there and stealing your stuff when you're out winter camp? And I'm like, well, you can't even drive the roads in the wintertime. Yeah, if you want to hike in 20 miles, you can have my stuff, you know? like, but I've never had an issue with someone coming out this far and messing with me, which is nice. Let's see, Deacon, I'm south of I-40. North of I-40 can be a little bit of a problem around here. In some areas are great, but there's one particular area that I know of, and it's pretty far away from here. It's not really near town or nothing like that, and it's there's just some bad folks out there, you know. But also too, there's also some areas north of I-40 that are fantastic. So really, what it is like Timmy was saying earlier from Truckhouse Life, do your research. You know, really don't just jump on something because you want. I know everybody wants to get out of the city, everybody wants to get off grid, but the reality is you know, do your research, make sure you know what you're getting into, so that way there's not any big surprises when you get out here. Because the last thing you want to do is like have to sell your land, and then you know if there's a parcel that's been online for like over a year, there's a reason why. Yeah. You know, for sale. So like take all that into account. You know, luckily this parcel that I have here, I was looking at the parcel across the street. And the realtor that was showing it to me was like, hey, I'm getting ready to sell this parcel over here. Do you want it? And I was like, yes. And everybody in the community, they all told me, they're like, man, we were so bummed when you got that because we all wanted it. We were waiting for that to go on the market. The bit. Yeah, so. Wow. So let's see here. It's a Deacon MMA. You should be a realtor, you know. Yeah. Well, one of the things I like doing, honestly, is I love looking at real estate. That's big in my family. My dad worked for the National Association of Home Builders forever. And before that, he was a realtor. And, I don't know. And also too, he's built a bunch of spec homes, and then my younger brother builds homes. He builds all the homes for the country music stars down in Nashville. So real estate's in our family, and I enjoy taking my quad and just rolling around on these trails. Number one, I want to get to know the roads because a lot of them, it's interesting. You look on Google Maps and like it looks like the roads end. Oh, they keep going. It's just throughout the county road schedule, and so it looks like the area that I'm in doesn't have any roads, but there are roads. But I want to know my area, and as a result of it, I come across properties, you know. There's very few for sale by owner out here just because there's no one driving around, and so they wouldn't get any exposure that way. So most of them are on Realtor.com. But there's other areas where it is, you know, there's a lot of for sale by owner. So you just really need to roll around and check out your area, you know, and check out. And what I recommend is, you know, if you're looking in northern Arizona, just go drive roads and see what the terrain's like and see how the areas are. And then if you find a parcel that you like, and if you're concerned about any sort of road noise or anything, or about neighbors or whatever, ask the owner, say, hey, would the seller be okay with me coming out there for an evening and just camping in my truck? Just because that's what I asked for here, because I was worried about this road behind me here, not realizing like it gets one driver a week, right. Which is no big deal. And so, you know, I asked that from the guy, and he's like, oh, yeah, that's no problem. Just let me know what you think. And after that first night, I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. That's cool. Yeah, so. All right, let's see what else we got here. See, Brian, how often do you get a flat from Cactus? I don't ever get a flat from Cactus, but I also have, you know, all-terrain tires. You know, they're 10-ply. I mean, you're not going to get much. Now, on the quads, that's different. The quads, you know, the ATV tires are much smaller. Like is it Choro Cactus or what is it? Yeah. Churro, but I can't remember. Those are like nails, and if you run over one of those, you're going to get a flat. You know, so you always would make sure you got green slime with you or some sort of, you know, something to put in the tires, and then you're set. Same thing with like your bicycles, you know, if you're rolling around on bicycles. Yeah, bike would be bad. Yeah. And so a lot of people say, like, especially when it comes to an e-bike, if they're the 4-inch fat tires, you can replace those with motorcycle tires. And then they're harder to pop.
Oh yeah, they definitely would be.
Yeah, and
A lot
so
more weight.
more weight, but you got an e-bike, so
Wow.
that you're not pedaling that thing anymore. But you know, well, you're using you're using the battery assist
Yeah,
on
just
everything.
take off the motor, put a 125.
There you go.
Call it good.
Just go get yourself a CT110.
Yeah.
You're set.
I mean,
you know?
I had a Samurai on 35s, and I was once asked to help do the stakes for a gold mine.
Mm-hmm.
And literally to get there, I had to drive over the top of 4-foot cactus
Oh,
to get through this thing and climb over boulders because it was like really far away, and I never got a flat. They were just beefy tires.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Let's see,
It was
J-Dog.
his land, so
Yeah.
you know, I wasn't tearing up the desert.
Let's see, one piece for concern, 2.8 snowmobile. Oh, wow, back roads. Yeah, I had a buddy that lived in a homestead that was way back in like it was like the south part of Gunnison County, right by Saguache, and it's called Gold Basin near Gunnison. And I mean, the temperatures get negative 25, negative 30 at night, and he had to snowmobile in and out 13 miles to get to his truck because the gates would close in the wintertime because they don't plow in there. So you're snowmobiling and you're going off GPS, and he's by himself in the dark, leaving in the morning at 5 a.m. I'm thinking, that's dangerous.
Our buddy Timmy would be doing that in a t-shirt.
Right,
If
yeah.
you watched his videos.
Truck house life, yeah. What was it,
Yeah.
negative 20s out there?
Negative 20. And he's talking about how cold it's going to get colder, like negative 40, and he's out there in a t-shirt talking in negative 20.
Yeah, he's got antifreeze in his veins.
I'm like, dude.
So, all right, let's see here. J-Dog, how much for 5 or 10 acres out of this 1,000-acre parcel? Let's see, I don't know what 1,000-acre parcel you're referring to. I will say that the smaller parcels have a premium.
Yeah.
You know, and so,
And you're going to have closer neighbors.
yep, and you're going to hear them. So, what I would...
And if it's a division and you're like, if there's 10 parcels, they're all that close, and you're the first or second person to get in there, you have no say over who your
Yep.
neighbors and stuff are going to be. Maybe buy the property, wait a while if it's a great property,
Mm-hmm.
and wait to see who moves in or doesn't move in. People might just be getting it for investment,
Yep.
and they might never develop the property at all.
Yep, totally. All right, let's see. Rob says, T-shirt and a Patagonia bomber for Timmy.
Yeah,
That's true.
you got it.
Okay, Night Rider says, I'm working on it. Just bought 10 acres in southern New Mexico, 30 minutes from town. And it's amazing. I just have to make the big move. Any suggestions? You know, what I would recommend is make the move when you're ready. You know, and also you can incrementally maybe go out there and put in some of the infrastructure you need. You don't have to do it all at once.
Camp on it a lot.
Yeah, camp on it a lot. See how it lives. You know, because that's what I did here. I actually camped on my property for a year in different spots to see how, you know, the weather hit it and how would the sun
is,
be for
different
solar.
times of the year.
Yeah, you make sure you got some south. If it's tilly, make sure you got a south facing slope for solar in the wintertime. If not, you're gonna have
Figure
some.
out where your winds are coming from.
Yep, all that
how
stuff.
bad the winds are.
Mhm.
What you're going to need to do to deal with that.
Yep, I would definitely recommend all that stuff. Let's see here. What else have we got here? Boss of the Swamp. Okay, let's see. Sally says, please go over the type of wood stove he used. I missed it. Oh, it's the.
Cubic Mini Grizzly.
Yep.
So it's the step up from the Cub.
Mhm. So let's see. All right, what else have we got here?
And they are good stoves, but if you're thinking about a stove and you've got a little bit more budget, I would say check out a company called Tiny Wood Stoves. They import a lot of European stoves, and these have a 3-inch flue coming out. Anything with a 4-inch flue is going to give you a lot better draft.
Yep. Yeah. My 4-dog stove has 5-inch tapers to 4, and then the one I have in my camper now has a 4-inch.
Yeah.
Which is great. You know, that's what you want.
Yeah.
So the
And
3-inch.
even with this one now, if I'm correct, Cubic Mini it's a decent stove, but Tiny Wood Stoves makes a 4-inch adapter for this now.
Oh, nice.
So you can run their 4-inch pipe.
Yeah.
But their pipe is almost double the cost.
Oh, is it?
So,
You know, one thing I will say too about a 3-inch pipe, you have to clean that thing so much more than a 4-inch pipe. You will literally, if
I
you're,
run that creosote stuff.
oh, that's nice. But you also have insulated pipe. Mine
Yes.
isn't, and the uninsulated part, especially
Yeah,
the stuff
that's
that's
where
sticking
it
out.
really
it-
gets
yeah, because like
my upper 2 feet
Oh,
that I put on top when I use it.
yeah, it gums up
gets
and
creosote.
yeah, it gums up real fast. Because what it is, it cools down so rapidly that it just sticks to the walls, and then it can build up and then cause backdraft issues and all this. It won't run efficiently. So when I would winter camp with the 4-dog stove, which has a 5-inch stovepipe that tapers to 4-inch. I clean it about once a week, and then I switched over to another stove for like a week that had a 3-inch stovepipe. I was cleaning it every other day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because those stoves actually allow the flame to go up into the chamber. These stoves don't allow that, so you also don't have to worry about a fire within the pipe itself.
That's huge
because there's no flame to get in there. It's all smoke.
Once that fire starts with creosote, you can't put it out, and it'll burn your structure
burn
down.
you down.
Yep. Let's see here. Somebody was asking. Let's see here. How much is the cost per acre out here? Well, it depends. You know, the large parcels, like 40-acre parcels, are anywhere from, you know, $1,200 an acre up to like $3,000 an acre, depending on what you're looking at. The $3,000 an acre is really high end on a 40-acre parcel. It's more like, I'd say $1,000 to $2,000 per acre, depending on the features of the parcel. I've seen 2-acre parcels out here go for 20 grand. So because they're smaller, and there's just
Could be access to road.
I think so, yeah. And a lot of times those smaller parcels are in areas that are planned to be subdivisions, and so, you know, like you said, the access is easier. Things like that. There's sometimes there's power to the lot lines.
Yeah, or closer than what you're going to get in a rural section like this.
Yeah, but if you're in an area that's, you know, if you're in an area that's off the county maintenance road schedule that has no power to it, I mean, hard to get to.
Deals.
Yeah, you get your best deals. And I also think that you get the most solitude, you know, because you have a big parcel, you got so much biomass between you and the next neighbor. Like when I run my generator up here, which is, it's a small 1,800 watt generator, which if I need to run it, if I have like 4 or 5 days of cloudy weather, you know, then I'll have to run it because my battery runs out of juice and I don't have any solar to harvest. But my neighbor Darren's like, I never hear it. Because I'll call him, I'll be like, "Hey, can you hear my generator?" He's like, "Nope." And I'm like, "Okay, cool," because I don't want to be a nuisance to my neighbor.
That neighbor.
Yeah, because like one of the things out here is like on our internal community website, it's like, "Hey, everybody, remember, like everyone's out here for the peace and quiet." Now you can have a shooting range on your property and all that stuff. Everybody target practices out here, but everybody hunts and stuff like that. But it's not all day. You know, it's maybe I'll hear some people practicing with their firearms maybe once a week. You know, and it's no big deal. You know, so. So let's see here. Yeah,
neighbors with guns, always a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Especially what's going on in the world these days. So let's see what else here. Mike Henry was asking, would you guys recommend a pellet type stove? You know, I wouldn't say for a rig, but I'd say for a house. I have a friend that uses that in his house. He loves it. So it just depends.
I don't know. I had somebody ask me about doing a pellet stove, and I just never seen it.
Yeah.
Maybe a bus, like a bigger rig that you're going to have a bigger stove.
Well, see, I have a friend that lives out in the country in Kansas, but he has an easy access to town to go get the pellet.
Yeah.
You know, the thing
you
about...
can get them anywhere anymore.
You can,
it's like, say, if you got a big enough rig, you carry a 20-pound bag or a 40-pound bag. It's going to last you a long time.
Right, and the heat from it's fantastic. Yeah. But what I like about using wood is, I mean, I have a whole forest out here, and it's just right outside my front door. Yeah. So therefore, if I don't run out of wood, and if I was confined to like using one source of fuel, then you kind of have to take that into consideration. You have to plan a little bit more, but it's not a hassle. You just got to plan them more.
And I wouldn't do it in this again because of the storage.
Yeah,
carry
totally.
A 20-pound bag that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, totally. So let's see here. What else?
Again, why I don't even carry wood in here anymore from place to place. Just I burn what I can where I'm at.
Yeah. And J-Dog, you're right. You said you think that having tough access like 4x4 only is a plus rather than a negative, and that's the way I look at it too. You know, you get back in here, and like I was talking to Brett earlier, and I was talking about, I'm on this eating plan where I don't have a lot of junk food in my life anymore. I actually have no more junk food in my life. And I'm like, all I have to do is have willpower for like an hour when I'm in town and not buy it, and then I'm going to come back at it. I'm not going to drive an hour back into town to get a Snickers bar.
For cookies.
Yeah, or something like that. So it's something to...
Shh.
I'll be coming in here and give me those cookies. I'm not letting you leave. But it's just something to think about. It's like it helps me stay fit, and also too being out in the middle of nowhere. One thing I love about being off grid like this, and even when I was truck camping, is like it's a very active lifestyle, and you're on your feet a lot, and it just naturally lends itself to like more healthy choices with your life, like. Yeah. Like, I know people that have gotten on the road, and when they first got on the road, maybe they drank a little too much or something like that, and they're like, man, I can't do that out here. Yeah. And it just forces you to, like, be healthy. And like, because it sucks if you wake up hungover out here, it's a sufferfest all day long. But, you know, and you don't want to do that.
Miserable.
Yeah, and so I just think that it kind of lends itself to like you know, a better mindset, in my opinion. You know,
One cool thing, being on the road and living full time and having a rig that you can get back into areas where not everybody is, you meet some of the coolest people.
Yeah.
And you see some really cool rigs. I've done a few walkthroughs. I've got those on my channel. Actually, I've got one coming tomorrow, so check it out. A really cool ambulance that a guy built, and he met him in KOH, and we did a walkthrough on that. But you meet some of the coolest people and some of the coolest rigs out there, and it's been really neat. I've got now new friends that we're going to be getting together this year in Colorado to go camping together.
oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's one thing.
and they're from back east.
It's cool, like the people you meet. I think about, you know, getting to meet you, and then, you know, Timmy from Truck House Life, and then, you know, Phil from Down to Mob, and Bob Wells. Like, I would have never met these people had I not decided to go do this. And there's like a, you know, there's definitely a camaraderie, you know, and Baron and Elsa and stuff like that. I was joking with Baron and Elsa. I said, you know, because Baron and Elsa are from Kansas. They're from Kansas City. I grew up outside of Wichita. And I said, who would have thought that 3 people from Kansas would set the standard for winter camping in Colorado? You know, I was like, because we were kind of the first ones out full time, and we were out there crushing it. Yeah. And Elsa got a kick out of that. She goes, oh, I never thought of it like that. And Baron's like, oh yeah, man. You know, so it was kind of cool to think of it in that regard. Let's see here, what else? Sally, Brian, have you thought about growing your own coffee beans? No, not yet, but I'm still in the process of just getting my garden going because it took so long to clear the land. The reason why it took me a long time is because I didn't bring heavy machinery in here. I did everything by hand. So if I had to remove a tree, I cut it down and I chopped up the branches and then I moved it. And then if there was big rocks in the way, I had to figure out a way to move that rock, you know, and stuff like that. And there'd be times where, you know, making the roads through here, I'd work all day and I'd get 6 feet, you know, 6 feet of road accomplished. And I'm thinking, okay, well, eventually I'll get to the point where it's done and it's going to look really cool.
It's paid off.
And I'm pleased. I thank you for saying that. What I wanted is I wanted to look like trails, like old school trails. And people come around that didn't know that I've taken so long to build this. And they're like, have these trails always been here? They look like they've been here forever. I'm like, no, I just built it last year.
Out, man.
Yeah, exactly. I have a guy say that.
Going right through your property.
He goes, yeah, I had a guy say that. He goes, man, that's awesome. I wish I would have got it. I go, no, this was 100% socked in, you know. Yeah. So, but if you have the availability and the schedule to take your time, I'd recommend doing, and you know, really take your time and think about your property, because I do know a lot of people. No, not a lot, but some people that have moved in and boom, they set up shop and then they go, well, man, I like where I'm at, but I wish I would have been over there. Or, you know, I kind of rushed it a little bit. So it's something to think about, you know. So, all right, let's see. Let's see. I got to see what fruits and veggies take in the soil. There you, no question. Yeah, Deacon MMA. I tested out my soil last year. It tested out really good for growing food and growing strawberries. I do need to alter the pH balance a little bit if I want to do like blueberries or something like that, which requires you know, a different pH balance for that. But I'm good as far as like strawberries, peppers are real good, bell peppers, stuff like that. All the stuff I like to eat. And then I am going to do citrus trees, but those are going to have to be enclosed in the wintertime in a greenhouse because they can't survive, you know, the winter conditions. But like Asian pears can handle the winter condition, Asian pear trees, and then also cherry trees do really well out here. And there's a guy up on the ridge, he's like, whenever you need cherries, let me know. He goes, I have tons, you know, and he's like, it just produces like crazy. That's cool. So my goal is to get rid of the Rocky Mountain junipers out here, which were the invasive species. Keep the old growth juniper, like the alligator juniper and shaggy and stuff like that. But get rid of the Rocky Mountain junipers and then replace those eventually with fruit trees, which is what I'm doing. Cool. So, okay, let's see what else. Cherry wine. That reminds me of that. I don't know if anybody used to watch Adult Swim on Comedy Central, but it was hilarious. Those old school, and Dr. Steve Brule, he's like, sweet berry wine. Oh yeah, you remember that? That skit is hilarious. I can't remember that dude's name, but he was in a bunch of movies with. Well, he's been in a bunch of movies with Will Ferrell. They did Talladega Nights together. The guy with this curly hair, I can't remember his name. Anyway, funny actor. So let's see here. My kid and I have learned certain fruits need more than one plant to flourish. Yeah, you know, especially like vines and stuff like that. But what you do is, you know, you just kind of get with what I'm doing is I'm just researching what grows best out here and then figuring out which ones I can incorporate into my diet. You know, because I don't want to just grow everything. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me, especially if I'm not gonna eat it. You know, a lot of people have suggested certain things. I'm like, yeah, but I don't really care for.
Unless there's a need for it elsewhere and you can trade.
Right, which I actually have a friend that does that. He has a massive homestead, which we're going to do a battery collaboration over there with Blue Eddy in a couple months. And he's got a big homestead, and he's got goats and chickens, like egg layers and meat birds, and huge garden, a massive garden, lots of different fruit trees, and he trades now. Like he trades what he grows for. He's like, I don't ever make a run to town anymore. And I was telling Brad, I was like, he knows how to bake really well, so he'll make a bunch of bread, fresh baked bread. And so people will come over and say, I need 2 loaves of sourdough. I want goat's milk. I want goat's cheese. And they'll go, okay, well, based on what you want here and the value that we think it is, next time you go into town, I need 5 gallons of diesel. I need whatever. I need a chainsaw chain from Home Depot.
Cool.
And then he doesn't have to go into town, which I think that's just fantastic. So it's that's the end goal really, is to get off the dollar. And he showed me his bank account. He's like I'm hardly spending. He's like the Starlink, and that's about it. So all right, let's see here. See, Chris Graphics said hello, new to the channel. I came across your channel from Bob. Oh, cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Do you think someone with trouble walking and needs a cane can make this lifestyle work? I think it might take a new change.
It might take a different vehicle, but I think so. I have health issues, and one of the reasons I have the vehicle I have is because when I had that health issue, I can go right into my home and deal with whatever I've got to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So don't let that stop you.
Yeah, and when I moved out here, I was still having a lot of problems from that parasite that I had. I mean, if y'all remember, about 3 years ago, I was down to 119 pounds. I'm up to 170 now. And, I'd walk around my truck and I'd be winded, but I thought, well, I'll go until I get tired, which was about 5 minutes, and then I'll stop and rest and keep going. And I think what you got to look at it too is, developing raw land is a massive project, and it's a massive undertaking.
Is that what they're talking about? Is they're talking about raw land, not living off road?
I'm thinking about like here, but
okay.
I think in both
Gotcha.
scenarios, And
That's a massive project. Yeah, that would be a lot different than living on the road.
Yeah, well, and
less stressful.
And what I tell people is, I'm like, just compartmentalize it. Say, today I'm going to do 20 minutes of work.
Yeah.
If your health will allow or whatever. Do that 20 minutes of work and then say, okay, I'll do the same thing tomorrow. Don't do it all at once, because you'll burn yourself out. Because I tried to do that and I got a bunch of injuries and it just doesn't work. So just pace yourself. Understand it's a long-term project. And then on the road, if you want to live on the road and you've got some mobility issues, something like that, like you said, get the right rig,
get the right vehicle for you, and then you might not be able to go into places like we can take this thing, and you might not want to because of the the difficulties if you need to get yourself out.
Yeah.
But and there's emergency beacon locators now, and there's all kinds of stuff that you can take precautions to make sure that you're safe.
Yeah, and for like a piece of land, like I said, I did it without heavy machinery. But if you get like a little Kubota tractor or a quad that can help you, with transporting materials, it really cuts down on the amount of physical labor, and it can make it much easier for you to get stuff
There's
accomplished.
still a lot for someone that can barely get around.
Right. Yeah.
Raw land is.
Well, and that's where, one thing I will say is that out in this area, you can find people that will come and help you do stuff and it's not going to break the bank, because out here there's not a lot of employment opportunities. Right. And so people will say, hey, I'll come help you for like $10 an hour, right. Or hey, I'll help you knock out trees.
Yeah,
and some people,
I helped a neighbor build a 60 by 40 garage. And I think that's about what I got paid, about 10 or 12 bucks an hour to help him.
Yeah. Well, I know people too that will say, hey, if you got trees on your property you're going to knock down, I'll knock them down for you if I can keep the firewood.
Right.
And so they'll come out and they'll knock down your trees of whatever you want to clear, and they'll buck it up and then take it off your land. And that's great, because heck, not only do they knock it down, but they clear it for you. Yeah. And then they consider their payment to be like, hey, I got my firewood next year for winter after it seasons. So they don't have to pay because firewood can be expensive. Especially if you're going through a lot of it. So all right, let's see what else we got here. So really excited. Oh, thanks, Hobbit Hole. I appreciate that. Let's see. Mike Henry, shoot, I missed it. Do avocados grow there? I don't know, but the thing is with avocados is they require so much water to grow that I don't know if I would do that out here, honestly. So, and I don't really use avocados that much. I think they're delicious, but for whatever reason I just don't buy them. So, all right, let's see here. There's 40 acres south of Saguache for around 10K and nothing but desert. Yeah, Cliff. That's the one thing about Saguache County and Alamosa County is that the land is just barren.
Yeah.
You know, unless you're in the like at the base where the Sangre de Cristo start, or on the west side of the valley there, the land in between is really, the soil's nothing. It's just scrub. You'd have to bring in all your topsoil if you want to start growing a garden, which is fine. I mean, you won't pay very much for land.
Do that.
Yeah, and then also too in the wintertime it gets so incredibly cold there. You're gonna have a lot of heating costs because you won't have wood on your land to process for heat, and so you got to bring all that stuff in. So you got to think about that. A lot of people go, "Oh man, it's cheap down there." I'm like, "Yeah, but the monthly cost can be a lot, you know, to keep up with stuff." So something to think about. So, all right, let's see. You know what? I think what we're gonna do now is we're going to run inside and say hello to Meadow, and then we're going to get our dinner started and kind of log off for the evening. So do you have any additional questions for Brad? We'll chill here for about another minute or two, and if there's any additional questions about his rig or anything,
shoot.
Yeah. And then also too, like I said, let me put his channel name back in here one more time. And that's the channel for Brad. It's Sunroamer Overland. So go hit that. Go subscribe. You know, he's got that collaboration with Bob Wells coming up on Bob Wells' channel. It'll be probably a couple months from now. Yeah. And then now with him getting Starlink and everything, getting that set up here soon.
Definitely be more consistent with posts.
Yeah, it's because it's hard. You know,
it's tough.
Yeah. So.
When you want to be out in the woods for 2 weeks at a time and there's no service, it's tough.
Yeah. So.
But I'd rather do that and live than live for posting.
Yeah, no, totally.
But now I can possibly do both. So that's cool.
and it is kind of crazy. I mean, like sometimes, unfortunately, with YouTube, you kind of have to post a lot, you know, to have that thing. But once you get it down with editing and everything, it's not that bad. But you can feel like you're just living to post. Yeah. And there's times where I'm out and people are like, "Oh, you should film this." I'm like, I just want to enjoy this. Yeah. Like, I don't want it to film everything in my life because it can feel like the outdoors becomes a job, and I don't ever want it to feel like that. What's lucky with my property here is that I've got such a long-term plan here that I'll have content forever.
We were talking about that.
Yeah, and I'm really fortunate in that regard because I've got a story to tell, and I kind of thought that when I bought this property. I thought, cool, I've got a long-term story I can tell because I'm going to take my time, but I didn't anticipate it taking this much time to get to my starting point, which is now. Yeah. Because now I can tell the story of, like, you know, growing food, and like I've got my living space set up and everything. But to get to this point, I underestimated how much effort and how long it was going to take. So, okay, that's Meadow. Meadow? All right, Meadow's calling for me. Let's go inside here real quick and say what's up. But
She is so cute.
But Brad, I wanted to say thanks for letting us see your rig here.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yeah.
And the questions. And you can always reach me on Instagram for any more questions you have. I'm always helping people out with their builds and when they're thinking about doing something. I built a rock crawler and I built another camping vehicle, so I'm pretty well versed on what works.
Cool. And you'll get the straight skinny from Brad. He's not gonna BS you on anything. He's an honest dude. So thanks, Brad. I appreciate it, brother. All right, I'm gonna go say what's up to Meadow, and then we'll be good to go here. So all right, if everybody wants to see my property here, this is where I live. I've got a really cool, that's all public land there behind me there. That's state land. I got 640 acres I back up to. This is the road that I cut into my place right here. So looking over this way, did all this by hand. I actually raised it up about a foot on this side because this slopes down. I dug all this out by hand and transported rock up here and soil and all those things. And that's all a natural fence that I built from. I kind of like to recycle the fence or the trees that I cut down because I don't want to just throw them into like a big debris pile. I'd rather have it to where those trees are used for building material. And then here for my camper cover, I actually used shaggy juniper posts all around. The nice thing about those is they're rot resistant, and they are stronger than pressure treated Douglas fir and redwood. So let's flip this around here. We're gonna see what's up to little Meadow. Little pumpkin girl, what are you doing there, sweetie? You wanna come outside? Well, come on out, pumpkin. I know, it's so good to see you. Oh, you're just a cutie. You're just about the cutest thing on the planet. We've been having so much fun. She's just a little lover, and we're having a great time. Let me get this off here, pumpkin. I want to take this off. Take this off here. Meadow is 10 weeks old now. She just had her 10-week anniversary. And let's go inside here, pumpkin. You want to come in with me? Let's come up here. We're going to come up here. Come on in, baby girl. You want to come in? You want to go walk around outside? Let's go walk around outside then. All right, so she's doing really good. She's pottying and going outside for the restroom 100%. And she didn't, there she goes. Yeah, she's just a little lover. Really, really, really acclimating well. Great dog. And she's a Shepherd Aussie mix. And she's good. Yeah, Deacon MMA, come on up, brother. So, and I got her from the Coconino Humane Society. And she's still got some brothers and sisters up there to adopt. So if y'all are in the area in Northern Arizona or in Arizona in general, go to the Coconino Humane Society website and scroll down on the dogs, and you'll see there's like Jacob and a bunch of other puppies just like her that are available. And I think she's got great markings on her. She's got like these little white feet, and then she's got the same type of markings on her face as Sierra. She's got like natural makeup on and stuff like that. So just love her. She's such a loving animal, really well behaved. I mean, she's a puppy, so she's chewing on stuff, but it's not anything that's unmanageable. As she takes direction well, you say no to her, and she totally understands. Oh, I know, sweetie. What are you doing? You're just about. Oh, hang on. Let me turn this around here.
She's trying to make friends with Lily, but Lily's not having it.
Yeah. Lily's like, this is my terrain. This is my turf. So, but she's doing great. I mean, I'm having so much fun with her, and she's really helped me out with, with losing Sierra, because that's been really difficult. And, having her in my life, it's just having another beating heart when you're out here in the middle of nowhere by yourself I think it's recommended. It's something to talk to. She's loving as all get out. I mean, dogs are the best, and same with cats for those that like animals. And it's really, really important, I think, to have something like that to give you purpose and get you to wake up in the morning. And I mean, it's just great to have her. I just love her. She's just a little sweetie. That little tail's always going too, so she's just awesome. So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We're gonna go ahead and log off now, and want to say thanks to Brad. Really appreciate you showing us around your rig.
Thank you, guys.
And thanks for sharing all your knowledge too, because this is amazing what you've built.
Thanks.
So, all right, buddy, thanks for tuning in, and we'll have another video for you tomorrow. And in the meantime, y'all have a great night, and we'll see you in the next one.